allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin? Lentine?
Here.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes. Motion to excuse Councilmember Kuhlman
Second.
because of business commitment.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Reports. Mayor Roach.
Yes, Madam President. Wanted to report our breakfast with Santa was well received with many accolades as being the best attended, and is also a great theme. We had the frozen theme. We had great food, chocolate bar, and entertainment, and many picture-taking opportunities. We had someone making balloon animals, and we also had other activity tables. Also want to thank the volunteers who assisted, and especially the Breakfast with Santa committee. Our film crew did its final scenes at the Greenwood Farm earlier Saturday morning, and they had a major fire scene, and there was over 130 crew and extras attending. We got a brief note from the location manager. He indicated, I heard you stuck it out to crack of dawn yesterday. Very impressive. They treated me very well, and like a director's chair and a digital monitor to watch. I wanted to acknowledge the gracious hospitality and extend on the behalf of the entire crew in sincere appreciation for your accommodation of us in Richmond Heights over the past month. We have been an absolute pleasure to work with you, and I thank you now. I think you now have the market cornered for the haunted movie house market going forward. They have indicated, and we're hopeful that we possibly do some other things with the movie industry. They thought our location was very good and close to Cleveland. Has area for them to store their equipment and do some other things. So they were very, very helpful. Thankful for that. I would also like to thank the volunteers for assisting in our holiday lighting decorations in the city. The city's City Hall tree, again, was, and the wreaths were done by the Garden Club. Our large blue spruce outside the fire station was decorated by the Richmond Heights Kiwanis Club. And the Kiwanis Lodge had a whole series of volunteers, including people from the senior club, Garden Club, and the Kiwanis Club. That concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you, Mayor, and I do appreciate those decorations. They look really good.
Looking good.
The city is shining light. Thank you. Fire Chief Newman.
Thank you, Council President Henry, Mayor Roach, members of council, and members of the community. Our fire department calls for service as of November 30th. We've run a total of 1,673 calls. We're down 4.8% compared to the same reporting period in 2014. Of the calls, EMS calls accounted for 1,336. We're we're down 1% on EMS calls over the same reporting period in 2014. EMS calls account for 80% of all call volume. Our 3 area nursing homes account for 21% of our total call volume, or 354 calls. Our fire service calls account for 337 of our calls, which include 25 structure fires this year. Fire service calls are down 17% compared to the same reporting period in 2014. They are 20% of all of our calls. Simultaneous calls, those are calls that happen at the same time. They occur about 14% of the time in our city. There have been 236 simultaneous calls this year. We've received mutual aid 35 times this year. In 2014, we'd received it about 50 times for the same reporting period. We've given mutual aid or provided it to our neighboring communities 88 times this year. In 2014, we'd provided it 75 times. In the area of EMS billing, we've billed $560,000 so far this year. That's a decrease of 3.6% over last year, or $21,000. We'd billed out $581,000 at this time last year. We've collected $300,000 so far this year. That's a decrease of 10.4% over the same reporting period last year. We had billed out $335,000 this time last year. Our collection rate for EMS billing is at 54% this year. Our supplemental staffing expenses for overtime is at, as of November 30th, is at $99,000. It's about 1.8% over last year. We were at $97,000 last year. Contributing factors for the increase in overtime include backfill for staffing of a firefighter who's been out on leave since July for a non-work related issue. Overall, though, supplemental staffing cost, that's overtime and part-time, is at $111,000. In fiscal year 14, we were at $126,000, so we're actually under about $15,000, or 12% under. This week on Monday, December 7th, we had a Heart Saver CPR course at the fire station. 5 of our citizens participated and were certified in CPR. The next class will be held in February of 2016, first class of the new year, with the date to be determined. Our class size is limited to 12 students per class. These classes are free to residents of Richmond Heights. Anybody who's interested can call me at 216-383-6304. That concludes my report for this evening. With that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Okay, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Police Chief Gene Roach.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, members of council, and members of the audience. Police activity thus far in 2015 compared to the same period of time in 2014. Our Part 1 crimes are within 1% of last year. Certain areas are a bit higher, but overall we're about even with the total number of Part 1 crimes. Calls for service that actually resulted in some type of a written incident report are at 6,493, which is up 8% from last year. Our arrests are at 656, which is up 28% from 2014. Our CAT entries are about the same as last year. Again, CAT entries are a better assessor of exactly all of the police activity, not just incident reports, but any type of service call we respond to. And those are at 28,860. And again, that's less than 1% from where we were last year, so we're pretty much on the same course. I was not able to get the most recent overtime figures compiled from our last pay period due to other activity this week, but I do have the statistics for the mall calls, which are 5% of our total calls for service, and 50% 15.2% of our arrests. This was one of the busier weeks at the mall, so I think the holiday season and the shopping is making activity pick up a bit. Our apartments account for 3 apartment complexes, Dorchester, Loganberry, and Richmond Park, account for 19% of our calls for service. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Building Commissioner, Phil Siegel.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, and members of council and guests. I have a brief report tonight insofar as our level of activity. We have had a pretty good surge in permits for about the last 4 months, and one of the reasons for that surge was a new marketing campaign by Kay Havenian, who has managed to start 5 new homes in just the last 6 weeks. That was about twice as many as they started in the first 6 months of 2015. So they're starting to sell homes again and build homes, and as a result of their activity and other activity, our account receivable for the building department finally, as of the beginning of December, exceeded the same level for the same period in 2014 by 7%. So as of the beginning of December, our activity was at $230,000 of receivable for the building department. We did have one new business open in the last month or so, and it's called Richmond Heights One Stop. It's the gas station at the corner of Richmond Road and Chardon Road. It's on the northeast corner. They finally finished all their paving and stocked their shelves, and they opened last Tuesday, I believe. They still have a couple of pieces of signage to install, and only parts of their shelves were stocked at the moment, but they are open for business, and we're glad to see them. They did a nice job in remodeling that business and repairing the site. Just one other item of interest, I thought, during the meeting of the Council of the Whole, you mentioned the insurance from the Civil Service Commission and the fact that the earning of stipend from those few members was impacting their PERS benefits. That rule carries over into many other part-time businesses, and two are part-time building inspectors and part-time fire inspectors. It's going to be very, very difficult in the future to find part-time fire inspectors or building inspectors from among retired members, because if they go back to work in the same field they were in, their PERS insurance stops. So a retired building inspector can go to work for Kmart or Home Depot, but they can't go back to work as a building inspector. So why that rule is certainly not good for the industry and not good for the city. The firemen that have retired, that hold the certification of fire inspector, are going to be unable to go to work part-time without losing their PERS insurance or whatever their similar state agency is. And so if we expect to find somebody like that, we may very well have to consider providing insurance even to a part-time person. So that those PERS rules are going to affect the industry across the board, not just for civil service. And I would suggest that if any of our members of council have good rapport with their state assembly people, they should bring that up. It's going to hurt city government across the board on many levels. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Building Director, I'm sorry, thank you. Very interesting. I do have a question. Did Sub City open last week in the mall? I think it was called Sub City. It did open, did it?
Did what
Anybody
open,
knows?
I'm sorry?
South City, the restaurant that took over the place where the pit was?
No, as far
It
as
did
I know,
not?
they are not open. We've been up there almost on a daily basis, knocking on their door, trying to find somebody in there, and to my knowledge, they are not open, and if they are, it's not with our permission.
Did you hear music? Is that where the music thing coming from?
I went in Friday and sat down, and when they were open, I asked to speak to the manager, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and nobody ever came out. And eventually, I canceled my order for food. I had to leave.
I'm tempted to say that if they're open right now, they're going to be closed in the morning,
Your son was?
but we'll check on it and
So
see
they're
what
open,
the
they're
story
closed, but
is.
something's going on, right? Because we are.
I think they attempted a soft open, but I know that's the only thing I know about it.
All right, I just want to know, because
Didn't
I'm
have a
hearing
grand opening.
something is going on over there. So, but you don't know if they're open.
Yes.
But if they open, you would know, you should know, right? You should know, shouldn't you?
We have the name of the owner and the name of the business, but they have not had the proper inspections yet.
That's why I'm sort of going there also.
I appreciate the
So,
information.
I appreciate that too. Thank you. All right, thank you. I just thought I better ask you that. I could have asked you earlier, but I forgot, but I didn't want this to slip away. Finance Director, Mitch McCaleb.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, members of council, and audience. My report will be brief tonight. As you're all well aware, the audit for 2013-2014 was officially released on the 30th, and if I may, contrary to some of what you might have read in the newspapers, it was quite a bit of an improvement over years past. Granted, we have a ways to go, but we're getting there. Right now, the Finance Department is very busy with the year end. We're working on final projections for this year and temporary budget for next year. Part of the process in aiding us to close, I sent out a memo a while back and copied, I believe copied council members on it, that we are trying to get basically all non-emergency purchases completed by Monday the 14th. We're also getting close to I've been in conversations with the YMCA, and we basically sat down and we've agreed on a number. Apparently they did have some internal issue with their accounting department, which is being addressed tomorrow, so I would expect a payment on that very soon after that. Yesterday, related to the insurance, now we have the health insurance on tonight's council meeting. Another part of that is bidding the ancillary lines like the dental and the vision and that. We received a quote yesterday. I've yet to sit down. I'm going to sit down with Sarah tomorrow, and we're going to go over that in detail, and we should have further information for council at the next meeting. And that's my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Economic Development Director, Crystal Best.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor, members of council, and staff. My report will be brief today. I understand that one of the houses that we wanted to have demolished was demolished today, 450 Richmond Park West. This is no longer, it is now rubble. And so now we're waiting for the property on Highlands to be demolished, and that should be coming very, very soon, according to the land bank. And I'm told with fingers crossed that the gas station is going to follow immediately behind these two houses. So I'm told by Cheryl Stevens of the land bank, following a phone call from the mayor, that there is a very good chance that that property, the gas station, will be down before the new year. So I'm hopeful, very hopeful. The only other thing that I'd like to report is that the Iowa County Demolition Bond Fund did award us $24,000 to tear down 2 more blighted structures that the building department has identified. The first one being at 434 Richmond Road, which is city-owned property, and the second one being at 4875 Geraldine.
Mr. Lentine?
Question, last week I saw in the paper that Hilltop Plaza was sold. Can you tell us anything more about what happened, who bought it, what they're planning on doing with it? It was in the financial page, I believe they sold it for something like $6 million, if that's the right number. But it is Hilltop Plaza. I know they've done a number of improvements already before the sale, the roof, the parking lot, and some of those things. Is there anything more that you could tell us?
Yes, there's an LLC that bought it, and it's called like 2007-8 LLC. There's some letters in it, and I apologize, I don't know exactly all the particulars of the name, but it's an LLC, and they actually are working on doing updating the signage as well, and so we have put in the city of Richmond Heights, has put in a storefront renovation application for them.
Where are they located? Where are they out of?
I don't know.
Somebody told me Texas, I don't know if it's.
I will find out, and I will email you.
And when you say signage, just the sign of the shopping center, or are we talking about stop signs, no parking signs?
No.
Well, those signs are in really
But
bad
those are
shape.
not the signs. You were just doing wishful thinking, that's all I was laughing
I
at.
know, I'm just tossing it in there.
No, this signage would be, there's two advertising signs at the very front by the street. They want to tear those down, put in new lighted signs, that would just enhance the whole appearance of it, and also help people know what's in there, and maybe entice different businesses.
So not individual stores will be getting new signs on their facade.
They might, but that's not the signage that we apply for storefront renovation.
Very good,
But I'll
thank
try to find out what this LLC is.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the reports. We'll move on to old business, and we have none, right? Kenny? Oh, yes, audience. Do we have any audience comments? I'm sorry, I skipped audience. Anyone from the audience like to say anything? Oh, thanks. All right. So then, old business, we have no business.
Under new business, we have ordinance number 102-2015, introduced by O'Toole, first reading. An ordinance amending the city's pay ordinance number 79, 2013, to remove compensation for all civil service commission members of the city and declaring an emergency.
Do you have any comments, Mr. O'Toole?
I'll make a comment. I agree with the comments that were made by the building commissioner. The members who have volunteered to give up their meager stipend in order to be able to keep their benefits intact is a statement to their commitment to the city, and I appreciate and applaud their efforts. By way of this meeting, I want to make sure that our representative, Ken Yuko, is aware that there is an unintended consequence to the actions that they've taken, and would love the opportunity to discuss that with him, with my committee next week, if he's going to be in town. But I think we have quality people on that committee, and if we can keep them, this is a good thing. So I would move for suspension of the rules.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Second the motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Ordinance 102, 2015 passes unanimously.
And
Res-
just add a
Oh,
real quick
pardon me?
comment on
What do
this
you
one. I believe it's a little bit more
What did I
than
miss
the
then?
state. I believe it's a federally mandated, came out of more of a federally mandated compliance to receive benefits from the Fed. So there's a little more complex than what we have talked about here so far.
Understand. I don't know all the details.
It would be good to hear more.
Let's hear from our state representative, bring the federal people as well. It's important that we do it.
Okay. All right, sorry, I missed something.
Resolution 103-2015, introduced by Alexander, first reading. A resolution declaring the property known as 4875 Geraldine Road, permanent parcel number 662-29-080 in the city of Richmond Heights, a public nuisance, and directing the Director of Law to take all legal action necessary to abate this nuisance and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Alexander, do you have comments?
This is a property in Geraldine that is bank-owned and has fallen into disrepair, and so the bank is being told either to come in and show that they can bring it up to snuff, or it will be declared a nuisance and we'll put it on the terrorist list. Move for suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes, move for passage.
Second the motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Resolution 103, 2015 passes unanimously.
Madam President, if I could
Yes.
just make one comment. Normally, Councilman Lentine makes this comment, but we go through what's called suspension of the rule, because normally legislation requires 3 readings. But when it's the consensus of the council, it makes sense in everybody's mind, we can forego the second and the third reading by unanimously suspending the rule. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be unanimous. We need to have at least 5 members vote in favor of it. So you're going to hear a lot of voting tonight to suspend the rules, but that allows us to just pass this ordinance, these ordinances and resolutions tonight, instead of having to drag them through 3 readings. They've been discussed in committees, they've been discussed in the committee of the whole, and it's the group's consensus that we move forward with it. So just a point of reference for you.
Thank you. As another point of reference, I'm just going to say that Mr. O'Toole is speaking to Bill Wonke of Notre Dame Cathedral Added student. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution number 104-2015, introduced by Alexander, first reading. A resolution confirming the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals with respect to the request for variances for sublot 71 located on Loxley Drive and approving the variances.
Mr. Alexander, do you have comments?
This is a minor variance. It's actually just 1 foot on the lot. It gives them a buildable lot, and yet it doesn't disturb that if they ever decide to sell the property over there, that the Queensboro will be taken on through. So I would move the suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Resolution 104, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution number 105-2015, introduced by Alexander, first reading. A resolution declaring the property known as 434 Richmond Road, permanent parcel number 662-22-012, in the city of Richmond Heights, a public nuisance, and directing the Director of Law to take all legal action necessary to abate this nuisance and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Alexander, do you have comments?
This is another property that has been deemed by our building department to be past fixable, and this is what we need to do to get it to be tore down. Move for suspension.
Second the motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan? O'Toole?
Yes, and move for passage.
Second the motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Morgan? O'Toole?
Yes.
Resolution 105, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution 106-2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. A resolution authorizing a certain contract for public health services from the Cuyahoga County General Health District for the year 2016.
Mayor Roach, do you have comments?
Yes, so we've contracted with the county public health services over the years, and this is a continuation of the same fees as last year, so I would recommend this passage.
Move for suspension.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
Resolution 106, 2015 passes unanimously. Did we, oh, we didn't do just do suspension, sorry. One more round.
Move for passage. Move for passage.
Second.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes?
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
All right, now, resolution number 106, 2015 passes unanimously. Thank you.
Resolution number 107, 2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. A resolution authorizing a contract with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance for 2016 and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, do you have comments?
Yes, we worked with our consultants, USI, and we came up with a no increase over last year, so I'd recommend this passage.
Entertain a motion?
Motion to recommend.
Yes.
Suspension.
I'm sorry, suspend. Yes.
Or,
Second.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
yes.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
Move for passage.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
Resolution 107, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution number 108, 2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. A resolution authorizing an agreement with Chard Snyder and Associates for third-party administrator services for a health reimbursement arrangement HRA plan in 2016.
Mayor Roach, do you have any comments?
Yes, this is a third-party administrator that we've used over the years. Essentially, they've come in with not to exceed the same as legislation that we passed last year. So I'd recommend this passage.
Entertain a motion?
Move to recommend.
This is
Suspension.
suspended.
Suspend.
Second.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
Resolution 108, 2015 passes unanimously. Okay. Any additions? Any correspondence? Okay, move for adjourn.